My husband, 31M, wants to be able to discreetly sleep with other women, and for me, 25F, to turn a blind eye and remain faithful to him. My husband and I have been together for 6 years and married for 1. We have been struggling with our life in the bedroom the last 4 months due to me stopping birth control and him having to wear condoms now. My libido has been way lower than it used to be, and his has gotten lower as well. When we do make love, he often now encounters erectile issues or issues finishing. I've been making sure he eats and sleeps good. He got his testosterone level checked and it was normal. After he lost his erection mid-encounter the other day, I was asking if it's anything I'm doing, / how can I help him, / asking him to open up to me. He admitted there is something that's been on his mind, but he's scared to mention it and he hasn't figured out how to say it without hurting me. I begged him to tell me for 2 days. By the time he finally tells me, he's out of town, so it's over the phone. He wants my permission to follow his natural masculine instincts and be allowed to hunt other women. He would keep it hidden from me and never bring them to our home, he said. Also, that he would never want me to be with anyone else though, or I would be ruined and lose my innocence. First of all, I was not a virgin when I met this man, and he knows that, so how does that make any sense? Second of all, he said he's felt this way for 2 years, yet he didn't feel the need to mention it before we got married? He claims he hasn't done it yet, but really wants to. And also that he only wants to hunt and sleep with other people, no relationship. He said he only loves me, and he said I should take this request as a compliment. I told him he barely has time for me, so why does he want to spend that time on strangers? I asked him if he thinks it's fair to spend our money on pursuing other women. He then sent me this link to try to convince me that this is okay and that other women would allow this. He won't go to therapy. He says it's a waste of time and money. I don't even know how I can look at him after knowing this. He always said he only has eyes for me, so that was a lie because now he's saying whenever we're out, he can't help but notice all of the attractive women around him and how he wants to hit on them / hook up with them. What are the chances that he has already cheated? Should I refuse to sleep with him until he gets a full STD panel? When he gets back in town, should I demand he sleep in the guest room? I'm really set on leaving him, but I'm not sure where to start. I don't even want to hear his voice or have to look at him. I can't leave until I save up money. Maybe in May I could. This is why you talk to your partner before you guys get really long term and say, you know what, I want to sleep around with other people. And then the average person's going to be like, no. And then you're single. And then you can sleep with whoever you want. What did this guy think? That he would just be in so deep that she would allow it? Sometimes it does work. I've seen a few of those stories before where the partner's like, oh, okay, we're just in so deep. And usually there's a little bit of emotional manipulation, but it didn't work for this guy. And the fact that he held on to it for so long, you can be E&M, you can be in open relationships, but the fact that he brought this after what, a year, 2 years, like she said, is ridiculous. And that's where I'm like, I don't like this guy. Next story. Story number 2. Told my wife, F35, that she couldn't do it without me, M34. Turns out she can. I made one stupid, selfish comment to my wife a week or so ago, and now my life is in disarray. My wife is in some crisis. Her work is closed and she's being paid, but she's home with our kids now, including one 3-year-old. She gets breaks on Monday and Friday with childcare. We went into having kids knowing she wanted to be a working mother, so this has been an adjustment to say the least. On to the OG fight. She spent a long day with our kids and the neighboring kids, and when I came upstairs from work and she asked for a break, I didn't respond well. I made excuses and didn't offer help, and for the first time in years, my wife lost her temper and cursed at me. Like an idiot, I dug in and thought I was right. I admit we both said some unkind things. But after Reddit humbled me and she made me sit down and write a list of things I did for the family that day and compared it with her, it was a longer list, and I apologized. She accepted, and I figured things would go back to normal. They haven't. My wife used to include me in parenting our kids. I did dance pickup most weeks and bedtime was split. I gave baths, made dinner, all the stuff. Since our fight, my wife hasn't asked me for any help with the kids. The first morning I woke up on what was supposed to be my morning with the kids, I figured she was just being nice or trying to prove a point, but it keeps happening. She didn't even send them down to say goodnight last night. Normally, my wife does this silly game where she sends my sons to ask me to read 5 books, and then we would negotiate down to 1 or 2 and race upstairs. Last night, I heard her racing him and came up to find her doing bedtime yet again. The kids haven't even noticed. It's like she's replacing me. When we were fighting, I said some really dumb stuff that's living inside me and festering. My wife was being nasty and said, "You wouldn't see the kids a quarter as much as you do if I didn't arrange it, and I'm done managing you." I defended myself. I'm not an absent parent and said something along the lines of, "I'd like to see how long you can manage without me." Consider my foot officially in my mouth. She has started running again. She's cooking really healthy and often. Every night I come home to my perfectly happy step-forward wife doing it all without me, and I feel empty inside. How do I fix this? I don't even know where to begin. At this point, I want to beg her to go back to how things were. This wasn't what we agreed on. Edit. Guys, I get it. I am a POS. I'm going to make this right. Edit number 2. Thank you to the handful of people that reached out with advice. Believe it or not, I actually do want to be a good father and husband. I have royally screwed up and I see that and fully admit it. This is going to be my only edit, and then I'm going to get off my phone for a while and focus my attention on my family. My wife had dinner cooked when I got home. Everything is fine between us, so there wasn't any tension. After we cleaned up, I went upstairs and ran my wife a bath, put Taylor Swift on her Alexa, and lit a few candles. I told her to go relax upstairs for the night. She was surprised but smiled and went on her way. I'm currently on the toilet watching my kids take a bath. People mentioned love bombing, etc., but I'm just trying anything I can to show her I do appreciate and love her and our family, and I want to be a present father. I'm going to do bedtime tonight and probably all next week. I will tell her she does so much during the day and deserves the break because it's the truth. I get that I come off as the a-hole here. I grew up in a not great situation and didn't have the best role models growing up. I'm terrified of my children not having enough, and I overcompensate by working too much. This new job came with a big pay increase, but the hours are longer, and I feel like I can never keep up. I've reached out to a few recruiters tonight. I used to love my job and was always home by 4:30. Even if it means taking the lost income, I'm thinking about going back. Relationships are hard, and humans aren't perfect. For all the people telling me my kids don't love me and I'm a waste of space, I don't know, guys. Just remember, I'm an actual person. This stuff is rough. Anyways, that's all I have for you folks. I need to watch these kiddos and start planning out my long road of groveling and reconnecting. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so you want to know why I'm not going hard on this guy? It's because he has self-awareness. He says, yes, I screwed up. Yes, I'm an idiot. Yes, I'm going to try and do better. I don't approve of what he did. Like he said, him and his wife both said bad things. But you know what? We have read multiple stories where someone says this type of stuff but doesn't know what they did wrong. Guys, I told my wife that she's useless and now she's mad. Guys, I ignore my kids and barely take care of them and now my wife is mad. Why is my family ignoring me? That wasn't the case here. He knows why he messed up and I give him kudos for that. And I'm not going to trash talk this guy, but people are so easy to, fly off the handle. So don't approve of what he did, but I'm glad he recognizes what he did wrong. Next story. Story number 3. My M27 family wants me to break up with my girlfriend F22 after how she responded to my brother's M22 prank. Hi Reddit, long-time lurker, first-time poster. I know the title sounds odd, but I could honestly use some outside perspective since anyone else I could ask is biased towards the situation. I have been dating my girlfriend Lola for about 2 years now, and overall things have been great. My brother Ian has always been pretty weird whenever she comes up or is around. Ian and I are very close, talking to each other daily, but the conversation will usually change gears right as I start talking about anything Lola related. I thought maybe he was jealous of the time I was spending with her or maybe a little crush on her. Still, Whenever we'd get together, he'd make comments about our age gap, poke fun at me for simping, and joke about her sleep disorder. Ian has always enjoyed a good prank. Either pranking or being pranked, he loves to laugh, and I genuinely believe that when he goes to prank people, he means it in a way to share the laughter. When he's tried to pull little pranks on Lola, though, he does things that he figured out triggers her disorder, like making sudden loud sounds, jumping out to scare her, and one time I caught him before he was going to do the shaving cream sleep bit, but she was taking a nap in the guest room. I warned him in more detail that he shouldn't mess with her while she's sleeping, as interrupting her regulated cycles isn't good for her, and at the absolute best, she's the worst kind of cranky when she's woken up. Ian looked like he understood, and I thought that was that. I threw a New Year's Eve party a few days ago, and Ian invited a bunch of mine and Lola's friends. Everyone was having a good time. My watch went off with the alarm that we set up for Lola to take a nap, and she went off with a sleepy smile. I kept partying. A while later, we all heard a scream, followed soon after by cussing and something breaking. I panicked as it was from my room where Lola was, and I ran through nearly kicking the door down to find she shoved someone down and was yelling at them. I looked to see who it was and saw a spider mask that I unfortunately recognized as Ian's from years ago. I saw him scrambling to get away, but she only stopped when 3 of her friends pushed past me to pull her up and check her before she ultimately passed out in their arms. Ian scrambled off the floor and ripped the mask off, revealing the work she had managed to do in the time it took us to react. He started bawling, telling me that she was insane and abusive, that he only wanted to make sure she wasn't going to sleep through the ball drop. At this point, everyone started yelling. Ian looked terrified and kept repeating that she was crazy and that I shouldn't be with someone who could do this to her boyfriend's brother. Some of my guys were yelling that if she did it to him, she could do it to me. All of her friends were screaming about how he should know to leave a sleeping girl alone and how it was creepy. Ian ended up calling our mom to tell him that Lola hurt him and she's furious. Lola's friends ended up carrying her out against my protests, and my friends were nearly split down the middle. I remember standing there while everyone argued while the ball dropped, my mother calling me for the 10th time, and Lola finally texting me that she needs space to think. Since then, we've lightly texted. She's expressed that she can't shake her fear of what happened, but she still hasn't told me from her side what happened. Ian and my mom are trying to convince me to break up with her and chastising me for not helping or standing up for my brother when he was being assaulted. Also demanding an apology for not playing my part as an older brother. Ian has FaceTimed a few other family members and now my aunt, who paid for both of our colleges and the house my mom and brother live in and helped me get my apartment, is taking the 3-hour drive up to make sure her boys are okay, which is stressing me out even more. On one hand, I know family is family, and I should do what I can to stand up for the people who helped raise me and become the person I am. On the other hand, Lola is my girlfriend. I adore her. I love her. I feel like I should be there to protect her. I don't want to push her boundaries, but not talking to her is a different kind of hurt. Ian is convinced that he was doing a well-intentioned prank and was wrongfully punished for wanting to make sure everyone was enjoying themselves. I don't know if I believe that, but I've known Ian for 22 years. Growing up, we were inseparable. I don't want to doubt him just because love may be blinding me. How do I approach the situation with Lola? How can I convince my family that Lola isn't a threat? She's mostly the most sweet and caring person. She just can't be woken up, and part of me feels like she was pushed to that point. Update. To everyone who has reached out to me with advice on how I can learn from this train wreck, thank you. To everyone that has helped me understand that just because my family has done a lot for you, it does not mean you're indebted to them and can't have an opinion or life of my own, thank you. To everyone that has reached out to me telling me that I'm such an idiot, I suck as a boyfriend, they hope Lola leaves me, they wish she beat both of us up, thank you. This won't be a full update, as a lot happened yesterday, and I frankly don't have time to get into everything with police and packing to deal with. In short, while a lot of you advised I wait for Lola to tell me her side before I confront my family, they all came over to my apartment yesterday morning while I was writing out a list of questions for them. I was supposed to go over the night before, but I texted them saying I needed time and if we could meet later today. but they obviously didn't like that and showed up unannounced. The fighting started almost immediately, and I initially was thrown off by them being there, but I matched energy and started yelling back at them for their predatory and enabling behavior of Ian and how I couldn't believe they would side with him over this, golden rainbow baby aside. My aunt got in my face about disrespect, while my mother cried and brother cussed me out. But I pointed at my computer and yelled back at them that if they genuinely believed Lola was the problem, then they were victim-blaming idiots that I wanted nothing more to do with. My mom kept crying, but I got my aunt's attention with the computer, and she got close to look at the screen. I was going through comments to write up all the questions, and after a minute, she turned back to us, really my brother, and said, "What is this?" I explained Reddit and that I had posted for help. Ian then stopped comforting mom and pushed past me to get to the computer, asking what right I had sharing family business on the internet. My aunt stopped him and asked, "Why didn't you tell us you were alone with her? You never told me she was sleeping." And to say all hell broke loose would be an understatement. Like a switch, my mom almost immediately stopped loudly crying and looked over at my aunt confused. Ian started shaking his head and reiterating his version of the story, which, listening to it, was infuriatingly off. I had figured out that not only did he tell mom and our extended family a version of the story in which Lola was all too violent with him when he jumped from behind a door to give her a little spook, but he left out the details that put him in any bad light. I started yelling again, calling him a liar, but he started crying and called me a liar, who was just trying to lie for my girlfriend. At the sight of my brother crying, my mom pleaded with us to stop, my aunt scrolling more on the screen. It felt like both a minute and forever that we were yelling in each other's faces about how the night went. How I felt he always used his tears to get his way. Him yelling at me about how ungrateful I always was, etc. Unfortunately, I forgot where we were and didn't keep the volume down at all, and sometime later there was a knock at the door. I didn't know who it could be. Some dumb part of me hoped it was Lola, though I knew it wasn't. Instead, it was two officers answering to a noise complaint from one of the neighbors. Feeling stupid, I plainly explained that no one was hurt and we were having a heated argument, but that no one was in danger. I did let them around and talk to my mom and brother, but my aunt spoke up when it looked like they were just going to give us a warning. "Actually, I think it's good that you're here. My nephew has something he'd like to report." She motioned to Ian, whose eyes looked between her and the officers quickly. My aunt still looked as angry when she first arrived, but she was glaring at Ian. "You know, hypothetically, if someone touches or hits you without permission or justified reason, that's something you can and should report. Is there anything you want to say?" There was silence, eyes moving to everyone around the room. My aunt didn't look like she was encouraging a report, but more so, it looked like she was calling him out. I stared at him. His eyes were bulging. He looked as panicked as the other night when he was trying to get away from Lola. One of the officers asked if everything was all right, and like clockwork, Ian started bawling his eyes out. My mom asked him what was wrong. I told her she had to stop babying him. He's been lying to you guys. My aunt asking him again if he had anything to report. "You were up in arms about this girl this morning. Where'd all that fire go? Did she hit you or not?" It took a while of us pushing him, but he finally admitted to the room that he didn't have anything to report because he didn't feel like she'd be rightly prosecuted. His next story sounded closer to the one I knew, where he admitted to knowing Lola had gone to sleep and wanted to scare her so she'd wake up. By the way, I still don't believe his reason why he wanted her up. He also admitted to wearing a mask, and I asked if he knew that she had a phobia, and then he said he knew she found them creepy, and that no, there was no one else in the room with them. He couldn't get any of our friends to agree to the prank, so he did it himself. He said he started making sounds against the wall. The bed was against the wall and then got close to scream in her face. He said she woke up and surprised him because he thought the stress and panic would cause her to scream or hide, but she went for his throat instead. He described his beating to everyone in the room, some of which I saw had the officers look at each other, then back at him. Then, that's when I pushed the door in. The door wasn't locked, I just panicked and didn't think to use the doorknob properly. I just threw my body at the door, and the rest of his story is what I was there for. I am sure if the police weren't there, I would have hit him. I know I would have. My mom started crying even more when he said she was sleeping, a fact that changed his entire story, and my aunt chewed him out, everyone scolding him for his stupidity and a-hole behavior. While the officers explained that it sounded like, if what he said was true, Lola acted in self-defense, and that not only was what he did juvenile, but one of the officers asked my mom's permission to question him more as his behavior was concerning, and they wanted to make sure he wasn't a danger to himself or others. My aunt and I told the cops he was 22 at the same time, an adult, and they didn't need her permission. He looks a lot younger than he is. Upon hearing his age, one of the officers sat down with him and asked him to talk through his thought process. And the other officer explained to my mom and aunt that Lola could press charges given Ian's story. My aunt still looked pissed while my mom cried about being confused and over her baby. My mom literally looked at me and said she didn't understand how her baby could do this. I already knew I was deep in the BS of this family, but I realized that I couldn't grow in the earth that poisoned me, and I needed to get away if I was actually going to get better and stay better. My mom kept fussing with my aunt and another uncle on the phone crying over the drama, while I texted a friend of mine who lives across the city if I could stay with him. I was feeling overwhelmed with all of them and didn't want to be within a few minutes of the source of the problem. I also wanted to give myself space to think and understand with a clear head. I am typing this between breaks of me packing. My aunt saw me in the room doing this, but she didn't stop me. She only asked me if I had spoken to Lola about this, and I told her I haven't yet, but I had plans to later on. She told me she was sorry for believing my brother without listening to any other account and that she hopes Lola is okay. So then it was just me in the apartment. The cops left after taking a statement for my brother and I. My mom left with my brother still crying, my brother calling me an a-hole, the world's worst brother. And my aunt gave me a hug, apologizing again for how she and her sister acted, and told me that I don't owe her anything, but that she'd like to know that Lola's okay. With everyone gone, I went to my friend's house, and I will be there until further notice. He couldn't make it to the party, but he heard about it from multiple people. As far as Lola, yes, I did meet with her yesterday. As excited as I was to see her, I know that most of you were telling me she was going to break up with me, so I had been preparing for that. Whether I ended up single or not, I wanted to make sure she was okay above all. I know I don't deserve her as a girlfriend, and I'd much rather she not be with me if it meant she was safe. She brought a friend with her and we all sat and talked. I showed them both the Reddit post, and Lola has asked that I not share any more information about her until she feels she's ready herself. She's on Reddit for gaming and general scrolling fairly often, and let me know that if she came across this story without me having told her, she would have been pissed. She did, however, read a lot of the commenters worried about her and wanted me to express to you all that, while upset, hurt, and mixed up with emotions, she is overall okay. She doesn't like that I posted about her without at least giving her a warning or heads up, but after I offered to take the post down, she only asked that I give her time and to leave her personal life, and opinions out of anything beyond what I've already said here, and until she's saying otherwise. In short, she did break up with me, and when I told her about the police telling us that she could press charges, her friend laughed and told me that they were more than aware. She thanks everyone for their concern and told me she really hopes we both learn from this. This section was approved by her, by the way. So yeah, unless I'm forgetting something, that's all I have/can give right now. My mom has been calling me and texting me, telling me that this whole ordeal has made Ian and her a wreck, and she can't believe I'd let a girl do this to us. I blocked my brother right after he left my apartment, and I just blocked my mother. My aunt has let me know that she'll talk to her, but I don't know what that's gonna do. I understand that it isn't what everyone wants, but none of this is anything I want either. To everyone who has nothing but bad things to say about me, I get it. I'm an a-hole. I appreciate any and all advice I've been given. I'm gonna be taking a break from not only the BS in my life, but this Reddit stuff too. I know I have a lot of growing to do, and I can't do that in this environment. Thank you again to everyone. So first and foremost, there were a few moments where I was thinking to myself and I had my doubts on if this was real or not, because the police showing up felt a little too convenient. But I think if this post was fake, then Lola wouldn't have broken up with him, and as a matter of fact, they would have been married by now with 3 kids. But I think this story is real. If you don't think so, of course, you are free to disagree, and I don't blame you. As for Ian, I'm gonna be honest with you, if there's anything we can learn from this video, if someone's love language is pulling pranks, that's probably a red flag. And then he said he went to go cry to mom, and I was like, oh, this guy's a mama's boy. And he's a crying mama's boy, and a manipulating, crying, lying, baby pranking mama's boy. But I'll wrap it up and say, I don't think that OP was this giant jerk that some people in the comments were making him out to be. Do you guys think so? I don't feel like that. And also, Ian could probably benefit from therapy or psychiatrist. It feels like there's something, he has some negative viewpoint on Lola or the relationship she has with his brother. But anyway, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you all for watching. Drink water. Okay, bye-bye.